If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another video for you guys. This one kind of unexpected, yet expected at the same time. I was expecting to do a response to this thread, but didn't think it would be this soon. But the Rock Scout is back at it again with another year of the Metal Tag, where basically he starts a thread of 20 questions that other music or metal YouTubers answer in response videos, and I figured it's my turn to do a response, and I'm going to be answering all 20 questions. So yeah, the Metal Tag of 2023. So basically it's an open tag series. If you are watching this video and make videos on YouTube and love heavy metal, you should make a response to this. It's a very fun thread to go through, and I did it last year. Shut up, phone. I did it last year, so I thought, well, if we was going to get one 2023, you bet your ass I'm going to be back on it. So without further ado, let's get started. And also, link to the Rock Scouts channel in the description box. Very underrated channel. Check them out. But kicking things off with question number 1. False Start album. An album you struggled with at first, but grew to like. This one was kind of difficult for me, but I decided to go with an album that some people would think I wouldn't like. And at first I wasn't sure, but then I grew to love it over time, and that is Internal Bleeding's Voracious Contempt. After all, I've said it a time or two, maybe even more in the past, that I'm not a big fan of slam death metal, just because it's just constant breakdown, and not much else, or the overusage of the pig squeal vocals. The cool thing about this band is that they're kind of the start of slam, but still has enough going on to where you could still call them a brutal death metal band and not just a slam death metal band, because there are some technical riffs and some technical moments on here. Yeah, it's got breakdowns, but it's not to the level of a band, say, like Abominable Putridity or even Devourment later on. Like, it still has enough going for it, and the vocals are not really pig squealed, they're just low, guttural gurgles that fit the brutal death metal style. And after all, this is a legendary New York death metal band, so yeah, at first I wasn't too sure about it, considering it had the slam tag to him, but once I listened to it, there's more to it than just slam parts. There's some technical moments, there's some cool hooks, some cool groove, and some memorable riffs. Granted, the guitars do get a little bit lost, but still, this is a hell of a debut, and really, the only slam album I'll really give a shit about. So yeah, Internal Bleeding, Voracious Contempt. The second question. An album with a war theme or lyrics. Well, there's no better band that sings about war than Bolt Thrower, or if you're from their neck of the woods, it's Bolt Thrower. But yeah, I went with War Master, obviously, and I mean, what more can be said about this album that hasn't been said in the past, other than the fact that it's one of the best Bolt Thrower albums, one of the best death metal albums of that early 90s period. I mean, with songs like Unleashed Upon Mankind, Profane Creation, Cenotaph, the title track, Shreds of Insanity, What Dwells Within, and this was really when, like, the grindcore in Bolt Thrower sound was pretty much gone. Like, yeah, you still got blast beats, and this would be the last Bolt Thrower album with blast beats, but yeah, it's like Realm of Chaos. Well, In Battle There Is No Law was still death metal, but with a lot of grind attached. Realm of Chaos was that lean more towards straight up death metal, but still grind in certain spots. Here, the grindcore is gone, and in favor of big death metal moments altogether. But yeah, after all, Bolt Thrower, this next song's about war. This next song is about more war and destruction and more war. Anyways, question number 3. Most influential metal musician to you of the last 10 years? Well, I mean, there's a lot of musicians that have inspired me to want to play music, maybe not in a band, but to just jam out if I'm in the mood, whether it's on bass or drums or even singing. But for me, and I was super lucky to get to interview this guy back in the summertime, Dan Swano. After all, I mean, he's been a hero of mine ever since I first heard Moon Tower, as well as Edge of Sanity, and a couple of other projects that he's done. I just thought, this guy can do it all. He can play every instrument you can think of. He can sing, great producer, great mixer of music, and a lover of music, too. And when I and Ricky from the Horseman / Shadow Cult podcast had him on the Horseman podcast for an interview this past summer, it was one of the biggest highlights of my life, just because it's like I've idolized this guy. I feel he's super underrated, and such a nice guy, such an incredible human being, and very funny, very hilarious too. So yeah, if you people who are watching this have never heard of Dan Swano, I suggest you pause this video, go listen to his album Moon Tower, then listen to Edge of Sanity, then listen to early Bloodbath, and then come back and talk to me more in the comments. You will thank me. Question number 4. Band on my to see list, I assume for a concert. Well, I did just put out my goals for 2023 video just the other night, and one of the goals is to go to another concert. Now, I mean, the big one will obviously be Metallica, but that's out of reach this year. But for this year, a concert I would love to go to, even though it's coming up in a few months, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, who can I get to go with? That would be the Morbid Angel show. Whether it's Columbus or Cincinnati, I haven't decided yet. But yeah, I would love to go see the Morbid Angel show for their tour coming up this spring. So I guess Morbid Angel will be the band on my to-see list for this year. Just because, hey, who doesn't love Morbid Angel's classic run from Altars of Madness through Gateways to Annihilation? But I digress. Anyways, question number 5. An album that energizes you. Well, I could have gone with a ton of albums, but I wanted to give a shout out to, in my opinion, a very underrated early 2000s thrash album, and that is The Crown's Death Race King. Yeah, this band, I feel, doesn't get the credit that they deserve because, you know, that late 90s, early 2000s period, whenever Sweden was coming out with a lot of melodic death metal. But you had bands that broke away from that sound and were doing more thrashy things, like The Crown and The Haunted especially. But The Crown, I always feel like, is a band that gets overlooked. And this album, Death Race King, came out in 2000 on Metal Blade. This was one of the best thrash albums of the 2000s, and it came out in 2000. So this album was kind of helping to keep thrash going, even during a time where some of the old guard was starting to go back to their roots, like Creator and Sodom, Destruction, Megadeth, among other bands, trying to get back to where they were at their best. I kind of look at this album as being a pillar album in the thrash revival that happened just a few years after this album came out. But yeah, Death Race King, it's such an energetic and heavy, brutal album. It's got some moments of death metal. There's even a couple bits of black metal, but it's still very much a straight-up thrash album. Songs like Death Explosion, Executioner, Devil Gate Ride, Total Satan, Killing Star with a nod to Black Sabbath War Pigs in there. Just, this album's so full of energy and nothing more, nothing less I could say about it. Question number 6. The Big Freeze. Show a snow or ice album cover, song, or lyric. Well, I got quite a few album covers that are winter-esque, but I wanted to go with probably my favorite of the bunch in terms of an album, and that is Dissection's Storm of the Light's Bane. After all, look at that cover. It's a very beautiful cover of the Grim Reaper on a horse in the landscape of wintertime in Sweden. And, I mean, that cover just captures the vibe of this album. After all, this album, Dissection, such an amazing band, short-lived as well. I mean, mixing black metal and melodic death metal very, very well. And this album was definitely the proof in the pudding. I mean, songs like Night's Blood, Where Dead Angels Lie, the title track, Thorns of Crimson Death, top to bottom, perfection of extreme metal from Sweden in 1995. Also, Dan Swano was involved on this one, so more Dan Swano love, but yeah, Dissection Storm of the Light's Bane. Hell of an album cover for the wintertime. Question number 7. A song title with royal ties. There are a lot of songs that have, like, king, queen, prince, princess, and whatnot. I want to go with a great song from 1969, and that is In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. After all, I mean, that album as well, such an important album in the development of early prog rock, and that album's one of my favorite progressive rock albums of all time, and it was in its early days of the genre in the late 60s. And that song, In the Court of the Crimson King, just masterfully done with great somber melodies, some cool heavy moments, cool improvisational moments, just a lot of stuff going on in that song, and plus with the title being the way it is, and the band King Crimson, I figured I'd give some love to that song and album and band. Question number 8. A predominantly green album cover. Well, there's no band that does green better than Typo Negative, and of course, World Coming Down. I'm just going to keep it brief because I've talked about this album to death over the past several months on the channel. After all, I did the Typo Negative album ranking and such. But long story short, the most depressing album of all time in terms of the lyrics, because, you know, Peter Steele's personal life at this point was in turmoil through drugs and alcohol and family members getting sick and other family members passing away. And out came this album, which reflected on all those elements. And of course, the album cover with, like, a lot of, like, bones and, like, destruction on there outside the city of New York. I mean, and also with the green overlay on it, it captures the mood and the atmosphere of this album. And Typo does green better than any band. Fight me. Question number 9. An album released in 2021 that you bought but have not listened to this year. So I'm assuming in 2022. Well, I did listen to this album in 2021 and I bought it because it is a great album, but I didn't really listen to it at all in 2022. And that's 1914's Where Fear and Weapons Meet. It is a great blackened death doom album, and hell, I could have went with this for question number 2 for the album with war themes and lyrics, because after all, trench warfare, World War I, and also banned from the Ukraine, which we all know about that. But this is a hell of an album, but I didn't really return to it much, mostly because I wanted to tackle other albums and get into some more stuff that came out in 2022, and still listen to the classic stuff I still love to this day. But yeah, 1914, Where Fear and Weapons Meet. Question number 10. Best find of 2022, new or old? Well, I kind of wanted to change this one up and go with like a rare find that was really cool, and that would be Monstrosity's Imperial Doom. This is actually an original pressing from 1992 on Nuclear Blast Records. I know when I showed this off, some of my friends thought, oh, it's a bootleg. Nope, it's actually the OG 92 release on Nuclear Blast. And after all, this album, known because Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, this was his first major band before he went into Cannibal Corpse. He was on this, as well as the follow-up Millennium, both great albums. Imperial Doom, this is the more difficult one to find. Millennium you can kind of find fairly easy, but Imperial Doom, especially an OG version, it's very hard to find, and I was lucky I got this for really cheap on eBay. And it's a hell of an album. The title track, Ceremonial Void, Final Cremation, Vicious Mental Thirst, just awesome songs and an awesome album and an awesome band. Monstrosity deserves more love. Now we're at the halfway point. Question number 11. New band / album discovery of 2022. Well, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to do two, because these were two bands and albums that really blew me away in 2022, and they are Schizophrenia's Recollections of the Insane and Vicious Knight's Alteration Through Possession. Two death thrash gems that debuted in 2022. Schizophrenia from Belgium, Vicious Knights from Greece. Both have differences in their style, like Schizophrenia has more of like a Evil, Slayer, Testament, early Sepultura, Vader, and even a little Morbid Angel vibe. It's a little more brutal, and it's just more evil sounding. Vicious Knights, on the other hand, has more ties to like old school German thrash like Sodom, Creator, Destruction, as well as a little bit of old Sepultura and Merciless from Sweden. Even a little bit of black metal moments can be heard on here in some of the riffs and the blasts. But both of these bands, definitely check these two albums out and two bands out. I know Schizophrenia's got a cool covers EP coming out soon, which I might buy, because they did an awesome cover of Morbid Angel's Maze of Torment, and I've been listening to it almost non-stop ever since I watched the music video. But yeah, these are two new baby bands that you guys should check out if you love old school death thrash. Definitely check them out. I about dropped them. Uggs. Question number 12. An album sold to you by a song. Well, I'm going with one that came out in 2022 after I heard this single and the subsequent singles that came out. I pre-ordered it, I think, a week before release. My album of the year of 2022, Bloodbath's Survival of the Sickest. The song Zombie Inferno was enough to get me pumped for this album, because holy shit, that was like old school Entombed mixed with old school Death mixed together into something absolutely wicked. And then, of course, the other singles like Carved and, of course, my song of the year, No God Before Me, definitely sold me even further on this album. So yeah, if you haven't checked out this album yet from Bloodbath, why are you here? Check it out, for God's sakes. Question number 13. Most anticipated album of 2023. Well, I did do the video for that on New Year's Eve, and I'll just quickly say the new Metallica album, 72 Seasons. I'm always going to look forward to Metallica no matter what, and it should be another good one. So, we'll see. Anyways, question number 14. The 23rd album on your shelf. So, from the shelf, I went through the first 23 CDs, and the one that I got out was, well, a great one, Agalloch the Mantle. After all, on the Horseman podcast, we dedicated a whole episode to this album because it's that special. Great blend of folk, doom, black metal, prog metal, all into one album, and it's just so beautiful. Depressing, yet the song Desolation Song is kind of an uplifting track. I mean, just unbelievable. I mean, what else can I say about this album that I haven't said on previous videos? But definitely check it out if you haven't already. Question number 15. The last album that has gone into your collection. Well, at the time of recording this video, which was January 5th, I got a few albums in the mail, but the one I put in the shelf last, and I'm happy I have this album finally, Emperor's Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. I've had In the Night Side Eclipse for so long, and I've never really checked out this album, which I know is going to sound like blasphemy, but now that I finally got it, I'll have a chance to fully dive headfirst into how special this album is, because I hear a lot of people say that this album gives In the Night Side Eclipse a run for the money for Best Emperor Album. I'll find that out for myself, but I mean, from what I know, this is an amazing album. So yeah, this was the last one I put in the collection, and I can't wait to check it out even further. Question number 16, a random pull from your collection. Well, going back to Dan Swano, I want to showcase an album that I highly recommend everybody who's watching this video check out after you watch this, and that is Witherscape's The Northern Sanctuary. Back to Dan Swano again. This is a two-man project with he and Ragnar Wiedberg, and Dan's doing keyboards, piano, vocals, and drums, while Ragnar's doing guitar and bass. And this was the last thing they released, which was in 2016 on Century Media. And when I found out about this band and seen that Dan Swano, I was like, I gotta check it out. And this album blew my mind. It's just beautifully crafted, progressive, melodic death metal mixed with, like, arena rock, almost, because this almost sounds like, if any of you guys have ever heard of Dan Swano's prog rock / metal band Nightingale, and of course Edge of Sanity, this sounds like a blend of those two bands. Like, you get those more arena rock-esque, like, anthemic moments and the softer sound from Nightingale mixed with the progressive melodic death metal chops of Edge of Sanity. Mix it together and you get Witherscape. Great balance of heaviness and beauty. And I mean, songs on here are just absolutely killer. Were like Rapture Ballet, Wake of Infinity, The Examiner, Marionette, God of Ruin, the title track at 13 minutes plus of just prog metal mastery. Yeah, this is an album I highly recommend you, yes, I do mean you, watching this video, check out Witherscape, The Northern Sanctuary. Question number 17. A band / artist I discovered through social media. Well, it's gonna be cheating because it's gonna be from YouTube. A band that I discovered via YouTube would be the band Gatecreeper. I heard about Gatecreeper through YouTube stuff and also, like, the Metal Archives and all that good stuff, and also, of course, hearing that they're so linked to Swedish death metal because they play with the Boss HM2 guitar pedal, even though they're from Arizona. But Gatecreeper, I think, is a hell of a death metal band with a lot of cool hardcore grooves, but with some cool D beats and maybe a couple thrashy parts. I'm waiting for a new full-length from them. I'm actually shocked I didn't bring up Gatecreeper in the most anticipated albums of 2023 video, because I think we're due for a full-length from them. I know they had the EP last year, or the year before, I forget. Maybe even 2020. I think it was 2020. But I'm hoping we get a full-length very soon from Gatecreeper. Question 18. Where do you see your collection progressing in the next 5 years? Prices of music going up, etc. Well, even if they go up, I don't see them going up by much. Maybe by just a tiny shred, like maybe a few cents, maybe $1. You get the idea. I don't see it getting ridiculous. But as far as where do I see my collection progressing within 5 years? I mean, I may not buy as much, because I do want to try and get a little bit more responsible with my money eventually. But I will still keep buying music on a periodic basis after I turn 30, which is in a little over a year and a half. So, yeah, but like after I turn 30, I'm going to try and be more responsible. But until then, I'm still going to go crazy, and I'm almost to 1,000 CDs back behind me. So, I'm never going to stop buying music, but maybe not go as insane. But know in my head that might not happen. But yeah, I do see the collection still growing in the next 5 years because I love buying music and I love music to death, so why should I stop? Question number 19. A new release you didn't buy this year based on price alone? Well, that's kind of difficult to answer. I don't know if I can answer that just because, like, most of the releases I didn't get were because I kept forgetting to go on to Bandcamp. I mean, there was one I really wanted to get, but the shipping price was a little too much. I still might buy it regardless, but Defactory's Apocalypse, which I had in my album of the year list for 2022. Hell of an album, and I want to get it, but the shipping price was a little bit much, but I still might bite the bullet and buy that album, so we shall see about that. And then the final question, question 20, a song that doesn't belong, a song that lets an album down. Well, I got quite a few choices to go through, but the one I decided to go with, and is, I think I might have brought it up before in videos in the past, and that's from Black Sabbath's album Tear, the song Feels Good to Me. It's not a terrible song. For a ballad, it's not bad. It's just on an album called Tear with the lyric themes surrounding Jerusalem and Christianity and Norse mythology. Does a sex song belong on this album? And even like Tony Iommi and Tony Martin have said that it got put on the album to have a single out there for fans to get into, but it just ruins the flow of this album. This is a really good album, very underrated Black Sabbath album from the Tony Martin era. Kind of like Headless Cross Part 2, but with different lyrical approach. But yeah, the song Feels Good to Me on an album that has a lot of themes regarding Jerusalem, Christianity, and Norse mythology. Again, a sex song doesn't belong on this, so yeah. That's my pick for that. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for my part of doing the response to the metal tag of 2023. Again, if you are watching this video and make YouTube videos about music or love music and you want to respond to this tag, well, then let me know in the comments, as well as don't forget to tag the Rock Scout to, get his name out there since he's the one who started this whole trend. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Horns high. See you guys later.